This is going to be your guide to using Kingambit in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So we actually have a pretty quick and simple moveset breakdown today. Normally, I like to reach deep into a Pokemon's kit and pull out some craziness, but Kingambit is a very one-dimensional Pokemon. Also, when you have the best Sucker Punch in the game, it kind of means that's what you want to aim for. So for Dark-type Pokemon, it's the highest at 135 attack, so that 50% same type attack bonus is going to beat out the Slacking. Yeah, you kind of just want to use the Kingambit as the ultimate Sucker Punch shutdown Pokemon, and we're going to get into those numbers and stuff like that in a bit. But what else does this Pokemon have? We have Supreme Overlord. This Pokemon's attack and special attack raised by 10% per fainted teammate, and that just really seems to be the data and the stats we're seeing everywhere. However, there was this weird thing at the beginning of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet where the original doc said, but 20% on the first KO? This seems like it was tested for the early copies of the game, and it's still up there in the doc, so I don't know if that information has been taken down. Kinda makes sense that the first ally fainted would give you a 20% boost instead of 10%, because even in doubles, when you have 4 Pokemon on a team, you're not really getting a lot out of this ability. That means it only works in 6v6. And for Battle Spot singles where you have 3v3, yeah, getting a 20% boost doesn't really sound that great. So maybe it's 30%, maybe it's 20%, maybe someone has something definitive in the comments, but it doesn't really seem like there's hard data behind any of that. Also, when we look at the typing for Kingambit, you can see a lot of resistances and immunities. Dark Steel, it's a well-known typing, and when it gets good play, works out pretty well. Problem is the 4 times weakness to fighting. Any fighting type move is going to hurt. Body press, close combat, you are a free heal when it comes to Drain Punch. Ground is common, fire is common, mostly because of Steel type being so prevalent, but at least Kingambit stats allow it to eat a ground type move, allow it to eat a fire type move, and that also means the opponent is attacking you, so you get to land the Sucker Punch. And on top of a signature ability and a unique way to evolve, it also gets a signature move, Kowtow Cleave. 85 base power, this move does not check accuracy. It's okay, I mean 85 base power stab dark type move into the Supreme Overlord on 135 attack, like, it's decent, but it needs some kind of boosting to actually be a threatening move, and tank Pokemon don't really care. Like a low base power 135 attack, yeah, that's not really going to do anything, and the not checking accuracy kind of means nothing because, at least in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, also in Generation 8 with Pokemon Sword and Shield, there's Oko meta. That because the tank Pokemon are so oppressive, a lot of people are running Fissure or one-hit KO moves, but in a weird way, Oko moves are the best anti-evasion moves in the game. This chance of hitting is not an accuracy, it is not affected by accuracy or evasion stats or any other accuracy modifiers such as gravity, wide lens, compound eyes, bright powder, all of that fun stuff. So Kowtow Cleave doesn't really do anything for you, and if you're going up against a bulky Pokemon or an unaware Pokemon, your 135 attack isn't going to get very far against a Dondozo using Fissure. So the more you look into Kingambit, the more narrow it gets, and really just comes down to how you want to build your team around the ultimate one-shotting Sucker Punch Pokemon. We have Swords Dance, Sucker Punch, Iron Head, also really nice. That way you can throw out a +2 stab steel type move against fairy type Pokemon or something like that. And there's things like Substitute against tank Pokemon. It's really nice if you set up that Substitute and they're using Fissure against you, and then you get to absorb a Fissure with the sub. Against Pokemon like Garganasalt, you really do not want to get Salt Cured on a Steel type Pokemon. That could also mean maybe the Covert Cloak so you don't get your setup interrupted. You are a bulky Pokemon though. 100 hit points, full EV invested, 120 defense. I mean, 85 special defense is nice too. Some Pokemon just have low special defense and that's going to hurt them, but with the 100 hit points, you're surviving things. So Citrus Berry buys you extra turns, lets you eat a hit and then throw out an Iron Head. You can have the Kowtow Cleave as something other than the Sucker Punch, just to lean all of your damage into, but you just kind of want to set this Pokemon up and then you're very predictable. That's kind of the weird thing about Pokemon. Even though we have a 135 same type attack boosted sucker punching Pokemon that gets innate bonus damage, It's not Generation 5. It's not Timmy's that only have Choice Scarf, Life Orb, Choice Specs, Choice Band, and they're primarily running it down on damaging moves. We are in bulky setup meta, and it's mostly because I kind of revolutionized Pokemon with that, didn't I, over the last decade. Sorry for being one of the best competitive battlers ever and ruining competitive Pokemon. I guess it's the Kingambit guide that really kind of sets this in, because, yeah, back in the day when you're looking at a Pokemon like Bisharp, by the way, Bisharp gets Eviolite, so you effectively do the same thing, but with Eviolite Bisharp, and with the low hit points, it's actually a little better on the Bisharp, because you're just getting 50% to your defense and special defense, which don't really go up too much when you evolve, so now you're actually getting a lot of effective gain, and yeah, that's one Swords Dance. That might even be 2 Swords Dances. That lets you get away with a lot, so Swords Dance, Sucker Punch on the 125 on Bisharp, can also go Dark Terra to put more damage into it. You are going to be wrecking fools. You also have access to the Taunt, that way you can ruin the life of tank Pokemon or Pokemon trying to set up on you. However you want coverage as well, because Steel Dark will only get you so far. Now, it's not the worst thing to have, but having the fighting to go up against other Pokemon that are weak to fighting will really round out your coverage, make it to where nothing resists you, and that's really nice to have when you're +2 trying to one-shot everything. Reversal is kind of a riskier option, but it can do better. However, you kind of see screens, even in singles from time to time, so being able to break the screens is really nice to have, and it can be annoying if the opponent's trying to set that up, and you just keep chopping it down. But the idea behind Reversal is, you take a hit Swords Dance, you take a hit Reversal, well, depending on where your health range is, it's actually just stronger. Alright, so this is Generation 4 only, and then we have different numbers for Generation 2 that give you a little bit extra. So 20% health to 35% health is going to be 80 power. So it means if you fall below a third, you're just hitting a little harder. And if you get into red bar, like serious red bar, then you're also looking at a lot of damage coming out of the Reversal. But it's less reliability, and just weird things about like Brick Break might matter. So yeah, that's Bisharp. It's the same Bisharp you've been running for the last however many years, except it takes 30% less damage. And Kingambit is the same Bisharp you've been running, but just stronger in every way. So upgrade your Bisharp into Kingambit if you want to. Which brings us to damage calculations. So we have Hero Palafin, just one of the fattest, beefiest Pokemon. If you're one-shotting something that has 100 base hit points, 97 base defense, you're probably in a very powerful place. So that is what we should aim for. Now, I did want to mention, like, Kingambit can also just run Choice Band. Good on coverage, good on just trying to go for, like, maxed out Supreme Overlord into Dark Terra, into Choice Band for as much damage as possible. And we can kind of add those numbers in. So we're going to get an extra 30% damage off of the Terastallization, bumping us up to 91. Not quite finding a KO, and that's also where things get weird on the numbers for Supreme Overlord. Let's say this is your third Pokemon in Battle Spot singles, so we have 20% damage. We'll factor that in first, bringing us up to 109 base power, which isn't quite a KO, but if it's actually on the 30% damage, then we're actually finding better ranges on the KO. On something like a Choice Band, just raw damage, but then we get more damage if we're setting up the Swords Dance, and we definitely have the bulk for a Swords Dance. The idea behind Choice Band is that you are a solid 3-hit KO Pokemon, so that means like Sucker Punch, if that doesn't KO, you just absorb the hit, and then you KO them with the next Sucker Punch. You can also do that twice, so you are a 2+ Pokemon. It's also good with the Dark Terra type because you're shedding some of your weaknesses and then moving your weaknesses around. So you're just like a solid 3-hit KO Pokemon that's just running it down on Choice Band. It depends on the opponent's team, depends on the meta, depends on a lot of other things going on, but it's just a strong hit your opponent really can't do too much about. And then there's the mind game behind it of, well, if they're going for status, you just get free crazy damage on them if you don't opt into the Sucker Punch. But now let's move this around and look at some of the other damage ranges. So go back to 70 base power on the Sucker Punch. Also, it's worth reminding you guys that we are using a very tanky damage reference. Not being able to one-shot a Palafin doesn't mean you're failing as a physical attacker. It means that like everything else just gets completely wrecked. And even against like other bulky Pokemon, you're still going to be able to do a lot more to them than they are doing to you. So if we're going like Swords Dance with the same idea, like we just hurt, and then we go into that, and then we just hurt. So yeah, before our ability even comes into play, just Terra, Sucker Punch on the +2. that one-shots anything that's going to swing at us. So why mention anything else? Why try to get cute with the Kingambit and do something different? You just kind of want to make it to where you don't get too completely bullied out by tank Pokemon. Like Swords Dance into Iron Defense and Swords Dance into Iron Defense kind of gets ugly. Like we talked about, unaware Pokemon also just have a field day with you. But if you use Covert Cloak and you make it to where the Garganasalt doesn't threaten you, then you're having a really good time. If Garganasalt somehow just doesn't become as popular, and you get away with the Citrus Berry, now you're like a 4-hit KO Pokemon, or you absorb super effective hits better, and the matchups get really weird. But you just kind of want to set this up, and then you play it to where like Swords Dance, Iron Head on a Pokemon that's not attacking you, which means you're still keeping this bulk completely safe, and then you're getting a free turn on the Iron Head. That could be really nice. So yeah, it's just kind of playing that rock, paper, scissors. So yeah, this is the ultimate Timmy stomping Pokemon. If they try to get aggressive in any way, you just absorb that aggression and start one-shotting them on Sucker Punch. And that's what this Pokemon is built to do. It is built to just anti any sweeper, but it is pretty bad against setup tanks, and then that setup tank sets up harder, breaks you down somehow with like body press or something, and then you lose the game. So you can get reverse swept using a Kingambit very easily, but it also just has a lot of power that we've been breaking down and showing, so things to consider. I don't consider it like the most insane Pokemon ever, but a lot of opposing Pokemon eventually have to attack it, and when that happens, they get one shot by the Sucker Punch. Talking about getting cute or not, I was like, what if we do this? Chesto Resto, full defense tank Pokemon? Like, you only run this into physical attacking Pokemon, because 100 hit points, 120 defense, is actually just a dedicated physical tank. You can also run the Iron Defense on it. So your plan could be running Pokemon that just remove special attackers. You put a Blissey on, you put some kind of other anti-special Pokemon, and then you just wait for the Kingambit to come in. And also that kind of works out if those Pokemon go down, because it's powering up your Supreme Overlord. So you Iron Defense, physical Pokemon can't do anything to you. You want to save your Terra into Dark or into some kind of typing, that way you don't get 4x'd. And if they're only physical attackers, you just win the game right here. You eventually set up Swords Dance, you eventually rest, but if you have one Iron Defense, you wake up at half health, and then you can rest again, or Iron Defense, rest, and then eventually just throw down the Kowtow Cleave, because it's just 85 base power that can't get immuned, and if you've stacked up enough Swords Dances on your uninvested 135 attack, you're still one-shotting things. So this might actually be like the secret great moveset, but the thing is, like, this works into special attackers. This wants special attackers, because special attackers are going to be very binary in how they just swing at you. So you want to hurt a Gengar, hurt a Jolteon like this, break down the fast Pokemon that are trying to do a lot of damage to you. What's a Choice Dragapult going to do to this? Lose. That's what it does. So with this, you don't kind of have that freeness, but again, if they have only physical attackers, you set up with this, because they're thinking, oh, I can just anti this Pokemon with an Iron Defense or Body Press or something, and then you start stacking it up super hard as well. Dondozo still becomes a problem, so gotta figure that one out yourself, but overall, like, yeah, this is kind of the only other angle I see on Kingambit, but it's not just a gimmick. It's not just stinky cheese. This is very strong, because you have one of the most bulky physical attackers that then gets a setup for free, and then rest for free and win. I might actually run this. I despise everything about this Pokemon's design, and I feel like offensive strategies like this are built to be punished. So I don't find this Pokemon interesting or that great. I just see it as a free win when it's on the enemy team. But this is actually nasty and fun. So secret moveset at the end for those who pay attention, like, comment, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.